Hello, welcome to you are watching a physics class on chapter force. So in the previous classes I have already discussed on the force, type of force, friction. So today our topic is the effect of friction. Okay. So what are the various effects of friction? So we can say friction always opposes what? Motion. So you know very well that when a ball rolls along the ground and it comes to rest after some time. So this is due to friction with the ground that opposes the movement of the ball. So therefore friction opposes the movement of an object. Second point is that friction produces heat. So when we rub our palm against each other, then our palm feels what? Hot. Okay. In the same way, if people rubbed on the floor several times feels hot. So this is due to the friction. Moreover, friction between the head of the match and the rough side of the matchbox produces heat, and this causes the chemical on the matchstick to catch fire. In the early days, people would rub a dry stick or strike flints together to produce a spark and light a wire. So this is one of the most important effects of friction is that it causes wear and tear. This means that it is the disadvantage of it. Okay. So friction with the ground wears out the soles of our shoes and slippers and the tire of the vehicles. In the machine, parts that move against each other are worn out by the friction too. So therefore we can say that footwear, tire and machine parts, they need to be replaced from time to time. This is the disadvantage as well as advantage too also. Okay. So what are the various types of friction are there? So there are three types of friction. Number one is static friction, then sliding friction and rolling friction. So now static friction. The frictional force that acts between two objects which are in contact and rest is called static. Rest means static friction. Okay. So when we apply a force to slide a book on a table, then the book does not slide if the force applied is less than the friction. But if we increase the applied force at certain maximum force, the book will be at rest but just about to slide. The maximum frictional force that opposes this movement is static friction. Next is sliding friction. The force of friction that acts between two objects is in contact when one object slides over the surface of the other is called sliding friction. So sliding friction is equal to the force needed to keep the object moving. So therefore we can say sliding friction is less than static friction. Next is the rolling friction. The type of friction that opposes the motion of the object that roll over the surface of another is called rolling friction. Rolling friction is always less than the sliding friction. That's why we can say that wheels and a roller are used to move heavy objects such as furniture and luggage from place to place. For an object, static friction is greater than sliding friction and sliding friction is greater than rolling friction. So let us understand the activity. Okay. So to prove that static friction is greater than both sliding and rolling friction. So what are the materials required? Block of wood, spring balance, a string and 4 cylindrical pencil. So first number one method. First of all we have to fasten the block to the hook of the spring balance and place the hook on the table surface. Then pull the spring balance gently to exert the force on a block. Then you read the scale on a spring balance that gives the frictional force, which increase the pull on the spring balance until the block just starts to slide. So the reading on the scale gives the measure of the static friction on the block. Okay, suppose let's see here. When you pull it with the help of spring balance, the scale measure read what F1. Okay. Next again, pull the spring balance until the block slides smoothly. The reading F2 is a measure of the sliding friction here. Suppose if you slide it here in this way, then you will see that the F2 gives reading the sliding friction. And last one is the you have to take a 4 pencil and lay below the wooden block. Okay. Then now you have to pull the spring balance to make the block move smoothly. Then it will give you the reading F3. So we have to see that in three cases we have to read the reading scale of the spring balance, say F1, F2 and F3. So here we see here that F1 is greater than F2, then F2 greater than F3. So from this experiment we proved that static friction is greater than both sliding friction and rolling friction. Okay. So next is the advantages of friction. So what are the various advantages of friction? So we can say number one is it helps us to walk and run on the ground. So without friction, then we would slip and fall all the time. Second is the friction between our fingertips and object help us to hold them. So it keeps object in place on the shelf and table so that they do not slide out, fall out. Friction between the tip of the pencil and the surface of the paper help us to write. Friction helps nails and screws to remain fixed firmly in walls. Friction also helps us to light a matchstick by striking against the rough side of a matchbox. Vehicles move on roads because of friction between the tires and the surface of the road. Moving vehicles slow down and stop when the brakes are applied to the wheels. This is because the friction between the brake and the wheels. So, now what are the various methods of increasing the friction? So, there are various methods. Number one is treads. So, treads on the tire and sole of the footwear are made up of rubber, so as to increase the friction, and thus it helps grip to vehicles and people. So treads and soles, they have some pattern, some design on the tire and sole, so as to allow the water to push out from under them in wet condition to prevent slip. Sports people and athletes wear shoes with spike on their sole. The spike helps them grip the ground firmly as they run. Sand and gravels are strewn on a slippery path in rainy or snowy weather so as to increase the friction. Okay. So next is the disadvantage of the friction. So besides advantage, it also has many disadvantages too. You know very well, energy is needed to apply a large force so as to overcome friction. As for example, suppose vehicle need energy to overcome friction on roads and move. Friction also causes wear and tear. This reduces the life of the footwear, tires, machine, and so on. Friction also produces heat, which can cause damage in machine. Okay, so. Here, you must keep in mind that a machine works using energy. If the friction between the machine part is high, energy is also wasted in overcoming friction. So energy is also wasted when heat is produced due to friction. So therefore, machine should be maintained well and lubricated so as to reduce friction and therefore conserve energy. Okay. Next is what are the various methods of reducing friction. So number one is polishing. When we polish any surfaces, then it makes smooth and reduces friction. Using lubricant. So lubricant is a substance that is applied between the surfaces in contact to reduce friction. It fills the small grooves on the surfaces and making the surfaces smoother. So oil and grease are liquid lubricants used in vehicle engine, bicycle chain, and so on. So these lubricants are also help to reduce friction. So some solid lubricants are also used in the form of powder. As for example, suppose when we play carom board, then we have to spray some powder on a carom board so that the coin can move fastly without any friction. Okay. So next is using ball bearing. So ball bearing reduce friction by making surfaces roll over each other instead of slide. They consider a small ball. Here they consider a small ball of the steel plate between the steel ring. So this also reduce the friction as the ring rotates. Now cold welding. When two extremely smooth pieces of the similar metal are brought in contact in vacuum, they will stick to each other, forming what is called cold weld. This is due to the intermolecular force of attraction. So this can be a significant problem in a spacecraft. Next is the streamlining. The liquid and gases offer friction too. The movement of the aeroplane in air and boats in water is slowed down due to friction. So the friction that occurs when objects pass through liquid and gases is called a drag. So streamlining involves giving object is a streamlined shape so to reduce the drag. What is streamline is a special design in a bird, in a aeroplane, ship. So which is rounded in the front and narrow at the back like a teardrop. Okay. So aeroplane and ship can are streamlined so as to reduce the friction. They can fly in the air and in water easily respectively. Similarly, birds and aquatic animals such as fishes have a streamlined shape that also help them to move easily through the air and water respectively. Automotive design. An automotive designer develops the outer body and the inner design of the road vehicles such that they work well and look appealing to the customer. The job needs creativity and a technical understanding of how vehicles can be made in the best way possible. To become an automotive engineer, you will have to a degree in automotive design or engineering. Okay, so today I have already completed this chapter, so I hope so you will understand very easily. I hope you will meet you in the next class. Okay, bye bye.